Hello, hello. Jordan Sheridan, live in Kalamazoo, Michigan. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a mask outside, it's because we are basically being poisoned right behind us. Well, I shouldn't say we, I don't live here, but these fine folks who do live here are being poisoned by the toxic gas plume. We didn't want to go closer because Colin and I drove into the parking lot. That was literally the worst smell I've ever smelled. And I've smelled a lot of shit all around the country. And we'll get more information, but there is a lot of different forms of gas that is being pumped out of this paper mill, Graphic Packaging International, which is a multi-billion-dollar, let me repeat, billion with a B, packaging company. It's international, and it has been releasing this toxic gas into the community here in Kalamazoo for a long time. And as we're going to learn, not only is it making residents sick, not only have residents died, not only does this area have a very high rate of respiratory issues, but 2 years ago, the current governor, Whitmer, and her administration helped this company that's been poisoning the community to expand somehow. Make it make sense. So I am here with Brandy, Deanne, and Gwen. You lived here for a long time. You guys are still living here. This is every day. Now, can you explain to people, as best as you know, what the hell is coming out of there? Because all around the country, you could see some plants and factories release stuff, chemicals, things like that, but it doesn't smell quite like what I smelled when we went up before we went live. What is being released from that plant?
There's over 30 different toxic gases and chemicals: sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, methyl mercaptan, all kinds of VOCs that cause cancer. The list is so long. Toluene, the list is long, and every single one of the toxic gases or toxic chemicals cause a disease like cancer, respiratory disease, kidney disease, you name it.
And at times, you might not be able to see it right now, but at times, the plume turns black. So right now it looks, kind of gray, white.
It's getting blacker.
But it gets blacker as the night goes on. And Deanne, we posted a video a couple weeks ago, thanks to the video you took from your home, where you're hacking your lungs out at like 2 in the morning.
It get worse, like after 9, it get real bad. Like the smell is like, oh my God, it's unbelievable.
And the burning eyes,
yes,
the stomach aches, the headaches. Now it's traveled over to, this is next to an environmental justice community, but it's traveled to the west side of the city of Kalamazoo, where it's predominantly white, and when they walk their dogs, they're getting sick, headaches, and stomach aches, burning eyes. Some of them are ready to talk tomorrow from that neighborhood, but yeah, like it's affecting the whole city, because at first Graphic Packaging was releasing 500,000 tons of toxic gases and chemicals. With the expansion, they added an additional 700,000 tons of toxic chemicals and gases. So now there is 1.2 million tons of toxic chemicals and gases just blowing the whole city, trapped in the valley.
So let's be very clear. When you say this is an environmental justice community, that means this is a poor black community. Let's just make that clear. Yeah. So like we've seen all over the country, they seem to like to put a lot of these corporate criminal polluters right on top of black communities, Latino communities, as we know, near Native American reservations. But now, I guess because of the expansion, at first it was just mostly affecting the poor black community. But now the white folks are getting it, which we're going to talk to some of those tomorrow. Now, I understand that some plants might release some things, but aren't they supposed to be regulated by the state government, environmental officials? I know that residents like you folks have been complaining for years to the state environmental department. The governor is aware. There have been complaint after complaint. There are lawsuits. But how, as far as you know, how is this company is still allowed to do this when it's very clear, based on the smell and the high rates of asthma, bronchitis, upper, lower respiratory issues, how are they allowed to continue to keep releasing this level of contaminants when people are actively complaining, but most importantly, actively getting sick?
First of all, I don't think they care at all. And I think they are working with the city. They're bringing in revenue for the city. And so therefore, if you're working with the people that are supposed to be higher up, then, they work together.
And you live just a couple blocks down. Can you talk about how do you smell this near your home? How does it affect your health, people you know?
Yes, we smell it all the time. Been smelling it for years. It has affected my husband's breathing, and he's on. He has asthma and breathing. He has breathing treatments. And my daughter, she had asthma, about 5 years ago when she was in high school. And I kept thinking, I didn't know it at first. I was thinking she kept getting tired and tired and tired. I'm thinking, okay, so what could be wrong? I mean, you're active in school, but when I took her to the doctor, that's what it was. She had asthma, and also at night it gets really, really bad. And and throughout the day you'll see the white smoke coming up, and then after 5 it gets a little gray, and then sometimes it gets really, really gray. And it affects me and my family a lot because in the summer we can't even open our windows due to the smell at all. My daughter's graduation party was in my backyard, and I was so embarrassed because all I smelled was the pollution. It smelled like dog. It smelled like a sewage. And that's what it smelled like, just like a sewage. And as my company was sitting around, and I noticed the faces, and, people were just leaving. And like I said, we cannot even open our windows. Just like now the weather is nice, I still can't even open my windows due to the smell.
Does it get worse as the temperature gets hotter?
Yes, it intensifies. It does.
Makes the eyes burn worse for some reason. Even our mailman has burning eyes. I remember the mailman Ryan. He was telling me that especially when it rains, like he knows that it's acid rain, like on him while he delivers the mail, and he doesn't even live here.
Smash the like button, share this live stream, get this out. I guarantee you, most people watching, this is the first you're hearing about this, because from what I could tell, the state and local media don't seem to care.
They don't regulate. That's the problem. The regulators don't regulate. They don't do their jobs. They're in cahoots with the companies. They care more about the company providing, because the companies, people don't understand with the environmental Great Lakes and Energy, or probably any environmental, department, they get paid fees for each chemical that's released by the company. So the state environmental department is making money off of the companies. So I feel like that's why they don't regulate them. They don't want them to shut down or get in trouble.
The state environmental department makes money off of how much chemicals they release? Can you explain that?
It's called the MAER system, M-A-E-R-S. Like if you put M-A-E-R-S graphic packaging on Google, it would come up and it'll show you all the toxins they release. And they also make money off the permits. So whenever graphic packaging or another toxic release facility applies for a permit, then the regulators make money off the permit fees. They're not making money off of us, so that's why they don't care about us.
Deanne, I know you've had tragedy after tragedy, and it seems to be related to this plant. Can you talk about your health? I know that you lost a young, was it your daughter? Can you kind of talk about your experience?
My daughter to an asthma attack. Then she was 17. Then I found my son unresponsible. He couldn't breathe. To an asthma attack. Now, due to that, my son has a trach. He's on 24-hour oxygen, and I have a life support machine at my house.
How old is your son?
My son is 32. And he fight every day to stay alive. And my daughter was 17. And I have asthma really, really bad. And my daughter's twin sister has asthma really, really bad. She stay in the hospital like every 2 days. I have to take her to the emergency room to get a real good asthma treatment.
Now, how close do you live to the plant?
I live right around the corner. Right around the corner.
And I've seen video, we aired it, where you basically could see it from your porch, and you were hacking your lungs out. What was this, like 2 in the morning? Because it's a lot worse at night.
2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, 8 at night, 7 at night, 5 in the evening. It's like after 5 o'clock it get worse. The steam or the smoke comes out, but after 5, 6 o'clock, they really put it on torpedo, and it just fill up the whole sky. It looked like the clouds done came all the way down out the sky. It'd be so filled up.
I feel like they turn the boilers on and off at certain times when there's not a lot of people that, you know, are working inside the city limits or whatever. Most of the people go home, so they just really don't care about the residents, you know, living over here.
Your daughter, who was so young, did she have like minor asthma as a younger child, and it progressively got worse with more exposure next to the plant?
Yes, sir, it did. She had it when she was younger, and it got worse and worse and worse. And she had an asthma attack, and she couldn't be saved this time.
What did the doctors say? Did they, because a lot of times doctors like to kind of play down, or like, well, we can't be sure it was connected to blah, blah, blah. Did they acknowledge that her asthma was getting worse because of how close you live here?
We didn't know it was because we live close to graphic packaging.
Yeah, we didn't know at that time until I did that.
Yeah.
request.
We just kept smelling this off of smell.
But we didn't know
Smell
where it
like
came from.
dead bodies, smell like sewage, bag
Rotten
up,
eggs.
rotten eggs. I mean, like she said, you can't even open up your windows. The stuff is coming through your windows. You study coughing. You study rubbing your eyes. Don't know why your eyes burn. You think it's your allergies, but it's this building over here.
You said your eyes burn from this.
Yes, like right now.
Right now.
My eye won't stop watering because it's
Like,
burning.
a lot of people are more
Yeah.
sensitive than others too. I mean, that's why I feel like the health study that should have been released, it's been delayed by Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for 3 years, and they know already that the people more people are sensitive to asthma and burning eyes and stomach aches and headaches, and they're still doing nothing to bring in help. Like, no one is bringing in help. They're acting like everybody's lives are like they can be sacrificed for billion-dollar corporations like Graphic Packaging.
So let me, to somebody watching who, just a common sense person, right? And by the way, the trucks don't help. There's a lot of pollution coming from trucks back and forth.
Cumulative impact.
But the common sense person would say, you guys pay taxes, you guys pay to the city for services like garbage and et cetera, et cetera. Enough people have complained to the city, Kalamazoo, to the state. What is the responses you get from your city, from the state? Are you getting responses?
They just get Graphic Packaging more tax breaks. They
Yes.
take everyone's taxes and they give them more. They gave them $21 million in tax breaks to increase the pollution. I mean, the state of Michigan gave $100 million for this expansion. For what?
We're going to get to that. But I just want to ask, what has been your experience? I assume you've complained to city officials, state officials.
They have been totally ignored. Totally ignored. They don't want to hear it.
Like they don't respond at all.
Respond. Exactly. No, they don't even show up at the meetings.
When even people talk at the meetings, the mayor will sit there and just look at you with this cold look on his face, like he doesn't even care. He won't even say, "We're gonna help." Like, he just sits there, like, because I think he's like in cahoots with Graphic Packaging. I feel like so many people are paid off that the corruption is so bad that we're never going to be able to know exactly every single person that was involved in this, because you've had hundreds of air complaints over the years to the city from Borges Hospital employees, from restaurant employees, from, you know, all these businesses that are surrounding the plant. The school over here, there's an elementary school called Lincoln Elementary School. They can't even go out for recess because of this.
How far is the school from where we are?
Around the corner. It's around the corner from here.
And they can't go out for recess.
No. They can't even go out for recess. There's another school up here where there was like 7-year-olds that made their little air quality group. They're like first graders because they could smell the gas at school and they thought they were going to die. So they were even trying to do something just as little kids, and like they should be worried about like learning, not worried about if they're going to die at school.
Now, you said that the city makes so much money from Graphic Packaging. How does that look?
The city gets money from the treating the waste, the graphic packaging, and they also provide water for the company. So they make millions of dollars a year off graphic packaging by treating the waste and providing the water.
So let me get this straight. Kalamazoo, which like so many other places, small kind of cities, they're strapped for cash. They're not strapped for cash.
Absolutely not. City of Kalamazoo, even Time Magazine's did an article on it. The City of Kalamazoo has a foundation of excellence, which two of the people that are on the board are the donors, they're donors that have just donated $400 million a couple of years ago that they could have used to relocate people, and they didn't use any of the money. And the donors are Rhonda Stryker and Bill Parfett, who is part of Pfizer. So they donate hundreds of millions of dollars to the city all the time. So they have plenty of money.
So technically they don't need whatever couple million they're making a year to poison this community.
But I think they've been paid off for so long by certain companies to look the other way when they're getting air complaints from residents and employees for 10 years or more, maybe even longer, that they know that they committed crimes. And I think that's the reason why we're being ignored so much by the government, by the agencies, by local, state, even some federal, EPA officials, because they're committing crimes. This is a crime. This is a crime against humanity. This is corruption. This is public corruption. This is
well, from the looks of it and the smell of it, it's environmental genocide is what it is.
It's genocide.
I mean,
it's ecocide and genocide, and I actually, because I filed that class action lawsuit against graphic packaging, and I put on Facebook that it was genocide, and I got a call from my lawyer saying that graphic packaging's lawyer was upset that I called it genocide.
What does he call it?
I don't know, but he wasn't happy I that I called it genocide. He wasn't happy about it. The CEO, I'm assuming.
Can I ask you, Deanne? I know your daughter was 17 and tragically passed. You said your son is only 32. How was his health as a younger kid? I know he had asthma, but did it all progressively get worse with exposure to here?
Well, as a young kid, my son was great, active. You couldn't sit him down. He wouldn't stop moving. And he didn't have asthma when he was young. He didn't get asthma until we moved over here.
When was that?
About 5 years ago.
What about your daughter? Was she relatively healthy before you guys moved here?
She had asthma, a little. I mean, she had asthma, but she was active, just like my son. Kept moving. You couldn't sit her down. She played football. She played basketball, baseball, ran track. She did everything she possibly could.
So just a little case of asthma, and which could be helped with inhaler. But it was after you moved here that for her, the asthma got a lot worse, and your son, same thing.
Yes.
And have you tried contacting the city, and have you been?
I've done called that number so many times. We've been to the meetings. We done tried to hold a rally outside. Yeah, they just looked at us and laughed like our lives is just a joke to them.
Yes.
They really don't care what happens to nobody around here. And then they turned around and bought the whole rest of Patterson Street. So instead of it's going to get better, it's going to get 3 times worse because they're building all them buildings that's releasing the same chemicals.
Yeah, they're expanding the wastewater plants here, I think. I said I think they're expanding the wastewater plant as well.
And let's talk about this because, the New York Times, a lot of places have done these little puffy profiles on Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I know Flint had high hopes when she was coming in that she was going to help. She did a whole lot of nothing for Flint. But Governor Whitmer has a reputation as, she ran on environmental justice. Her and a lot of Democratic politicians like to show up to black churches around election time. But as far as I know, you could fill in the dots. She knows about this. There's been complaints to the health department, the environmental department. Her administration in 2021 approved a bond deal that allowed this company, Graphic Packaging, who, by the way, is already a multi-billion-dollar company, her administration approved a $125 million bond deal so that they could expand. Why in the world would the governor and her team approve that when it's not a secret. They know that there's a lot of complaints, and they know how high the percentages of respiratory issues in Kalamazoo are.
I feel like another thing that people don't understand is when these type of companies, these toxic polluters that are poisoning people, they get these tax breaks. These are taxpayer funds. These are school funds. You wonder why the schools are underfunded. You wonder why your taxes are going up. They're going to billion-dollar companies that are poisoning people. And she knows that some of these monitors that are throughout the state of Michigan, not just in Kalamazoo County, I mean, they have to know that the criteria pollutants are turned off on the monitors. So when you look on your weather app and you see that it's a clean air day, it's a lie. I mean, she knows everything. Like, I've called her office multiple times since 2020, and the constituent services told me they're relaying these messages to her. She's never called me back. She's never emailed me. She's seen me on the news probably 100 times. Like, she's been to Kalamazoo to take pictures with the mayor on other things, but she's never toured our environmental justice community. And she's known since 2019 that we're a hot spot of environmental justice because University of Michigan came out with a study on it, labeling us one of the worst hot spots of environmental justice in the state of Michigan. So I think it's just like Flint, kind of. It's like they know that everything they did was so wrong and so criminal that they just they hope that if they keep ignoring the problem that it'll go away and that people will just stop fighting for justice. And I'm not going to stop.
And let me ask you, because what the part that doesn't make a lot of sense, you mentioned air monitors. So you would think there are federal and state laws in terms of air pollution. So is the state environmental and health department saying that graphic packaging is meeting the regulatory requirement and that they're saying that they're not releasing toxic level of gases?
The monitors to prove it. There are the only monitors that are out here right now are hydrogen sulfide monitors that are at the wastewater plant, and that is an unregulated chemical. There are tons of chemicals that are being released from both facilities, the wastewater plant next door and graphic packaging, that are regulated, but there are no monitors here. And they purposely, the only monitor we have in the county for all the polluters, including Pfizer and every polluter that there is in the middle of the fairgrounds, not near any toxic.
So they don't have monitors where straight ahead of us with all the stuff coming out of there?
The state is the one that runs the EPA monitors. So the EPA gives the states the EPA monitors, right? So the state oversees that for the EPA, and they only have so many, right? And they have so much money, and Biden just put out more money for environmental justice and everything like that. So there's no excuse for them not to have like a ton of toxic chemical and gas monitors right now to show how bad it is. But if I initiated that health study with the health department, they've delayed it. They have enough. They're just going off the hydrogen sulfide monitors. I've asked them to look at the VOCs. They said they're looking at them, but if you don't have enough VOC monitors, all you did was bring a drone for a couple of days and saw VOCs. You don't have this consistent monitoring being done out here. And I think that's happening all over the country. I don't think it's just us. I think that they focus on water to take away from the air, and the air, everything that goes in the air goes in the soil and the water. I think every environmental justice community in the United States is a Superfund site.
Can I ask you guys, because you guys live so close to here, can you talk about your neighbors? Are they experiencing similar things? Are they having asthma, bronchitis? Obviously, asthma could cause other health problems. What are people in your neighborhood experiencing?
I don't know exactly what they're experiencing, but they experience the smell. They all they do is they talk about the smell, and they discuss with each other about the smell. And not only does my husband have asthma, now he has a CPAP machine, and he also has breathing treatments. But now, as far as the neighbors, I don't really talk to them or see them that much, really.
How could you? Nobody wants to go outside.
Nobody wants to go outside. I mean, as a matter of fact, it was so quiet last year and the year before. It's like, oh my goodness, I look outside to see if we even had any neighbors, because nobody came outside.
Right.
Do kids go outside to play in the neighborhood, or?
No, not really at all.
I bring my grandkids out to play. I take them to somewhere like Ramona Beach or something like that, somewhere that's off the north side.
Yeah, I
Because
know
my
it.
granddaughter, my grandson, they've been having asthma attacks on top of asthma attacks, and they never had asthma before.
It's gotten so much.
And you guys moved here 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So how old are your grandkids?
My one of my grandkids is 7, and my granddaughter, she 9.
9?
9, yeah. So when I first moved here, I have brought them to come live with me, and they have been sick ever since.
How often do you have to take them to the doctor for like breathing treatments and things like that?
Now they with my daughter. My daughter takes them. She don't have to take them quite frequently anymore because they live all the way on the west side, the deep west side. But she still has to take them. But when they come over to my house, they have asthma attacks on top of asthma attacks.
And it took me I lived here only 3 years before I got diagnosed with asthma. And I never had any asthma symptoms before that.
And you know what's kind of scary? If you got asthma, you're way more susceptible to COVID. So COVID comes through, I mean, obviously all of the country, the world. But can you talk about, did people get COVID bad here?
She knows.
Yeah, COVID was real bad. Every day for like 3 weeks straight, I went to a funeral every day. Every day because of COVID. It's just a blessing. Me and my son, I think the only two that haven't got COVID. Everybody else had COVID around us, but we didn't get COVID and we didn't take the shot. The doctors said they didn't think it was safe enough for my son to take the shot, as sick as he was. So since he couldn't take the shot, I didn't take the shots neither. And we the only two that didn't never get COVID.
You were saying for weeks you went to funerals every day? And how old was these people dying?
Some of them was from 6 months to 60 years old.
6-month-olds?
Oh, God. There's like
Yes, it was a lot of babies that died. Yes. It was a lot of babies that had died. All the way up.
And what were the doctors saying? Was it, obviously it was COVID, but was it because they had...
COVID. But you know, when COVID had got really bad and stuff, you couldn't go, your family couldn't come visit you in the hospital. Like my daughter had COVID really bad. She was pregnant. They had her in the hospital on a ventilator machine. Only information I can find out is what the nurse told me. We couldn't go check on her. She wasn't strong enough to talk on the phone. So just prayers brought her up out of there.
A lot of people don't know the link, though. The link to COVID, that has to be studied. So Harvard and I think Columbia University did a study and said if you're exposed to air pollution, then you have a 15% higher chance of dying from COVID. So a lot of people just don't know that. Even the doctors here probably don't know it.
Well, when you're talking about 6 months old, all we heard was children are the least at risk of dying from COVID.
Yeah.
But you're talking about young kids.
Babies in this neighborhood that have died a year. The counties I had found this like when I first started doing the investigation and finding out why I was having all these symptoms and going door to door and finding out everyone was sick just like I was. I found this county health department report that said there was like 1,950 African American babies, which majority of them live in the environmental justice community, that died in 2015. So,
How many?
1,950, and there's like eight or 9,000 people that live in this neighborhood. Like that's insane. And Kalamazoo has always had the highest black baby death rate in the United States. Like it's been like that for years. So, and I know it's from that because I talked to the toxicologist I had to do the report, and I asked him, I said, do you think that the reason why these babies are dying, because they keep telling everybody that the reason why they're dying is because the mothers are rolling over on their babies. I'm sorry, I don't believe 2,000 mothers are rolling over and killing their babies. That's insane for you to even say that to people and to make this little group with the YWCA to say that this is why, because you won't.
The toxicologist said almost 2,000 babies died here because the mothers rolled over on them?
I asked the toxicologist, could it be that their lungs were underdeveloped and the exposure to air pollution, could that be the reason they died? And he said yes. But the city of Kalamazoo has this little group, and I think they help fund it or whatever, that's been telling women for years that the reason why the black baby death rate is so high is because they're rolling over on their babies and killing them. It's insane. The corruption in Kalamazoo is insane.
You know, it's so bad now that, okay, my granddaughter, she has asthma really bad. She's 20. And every time she comes over to my house, she said, Granny, I'm not coming over here anymore because I always have to use my inhaler every time I come over. And then I also have a great grandson, which is her baby. She says every time he comes over, he gets sick. She said, you know what, every time you babysit, she said he never gets sick until he comes to your house. And she took him to the doctor because she thought he had a cold. And he's only 7 months. And the doctor said he doesn't have a cold. They told her that it was asthma and asked her what kind of environment was he in. And she told him safe. That's all she would say was safe because she really, I think, didn't understand the question. But yes, and then my other great granddaughter, I keep her every other weekend, and every time she comes over, she'll say, Granny, it stinks. And she gets sick for some reason, and we don't know why. And I asked her mom, I said, was she sick before she came over? She said no. But every time she comes to our house, she gets sick. And then when I take her home, I'll call her mom the next day. I said, how is she doing? She said, oh, she's fine. She's not doing any of those things you said she was doing. So, and my great grandson, the doctor he said, since he doesn't have a cold, they actually gave him some medicine for asthma. So he's on some medication.
And there's so many stories. All the stories are the same. Like I'm the one that gets the messages and the calls all the time because I'm the one that filed the lawsuit. We have a civil rights complaint against Environmental Great Lakes and Energy. We have a civil rights complaint against the city of Kalamazoo. We're going to file another lawsuit against the government soon. I just heard another story from a lady that said she had to quit her job. She lives a couple blocks away. She has raising her grandchildren, and she has to take them to the doctor every single day for breathing problems. Every day. Like, and these stories are when I went door to door, there wasn't anybody that did not have asthma or COPD.
And this was predominantly affecting this part of town, but over the last year or so, it's
Since
now...
the expansion started in February 2022, now the pollution has increased by 700,000 tons, so it's actually... the wind has blown it to the west, which usually doesn't really prevail. It's to the east, I would say more. So northeast, and now it's over in the west, and so now the predominantly white areas are getting poisoned as well, and so now they're sick too.
And you sent me some stuff. I'm not a stranger to the Michigan Environmental Department, who are a bunch of liars, and lied to Flint. But you sent me something where I don't know if it was from the health department or the environmental department. She basically responded, well, I went there and I didn't smell it.
Yeah,
so
she does a smell test. Like, you should be bringing out like chemical monitors. When you see that people are sick, you have people complaining they're sick. It's not just an odor issue. And that's another problem that's been going on for years, is that the city of Kalamazoo, the Environmental Great Lakes and Energy, have tried to play this off as an odor issue, like it's an odor from your freaking trash can, and that it's not toxic. They made an odor task force, which they should have called it a toxic gas force. They had politicians attending the meetings with Environmental Great Lakes and Energy employees, with City of Kalamazoo employees, with graphic packaging employees, and they've been having these quarterly meetings since 2018.
Just for people to understand the history of the environmental department here, this is an environmental department that knew about the deadly Legionnaires outbreak. They knew about the deadly Legionnaires outbreak, which was the deadly bacteria that killed, the state says 12 people. That's bullshit. It killed hundreds of people, possibly more than that, in Flint. It's a deadly bacteria. We just met someone the other day who had it 2 years ago in Flint, but they knew about it. And the head of one of the top officials in the environmental department basically told the health department, do not notify the public, a year and a half before they did. So that's the environmental department. They've been caught manipulating testing data, in Flint's case, on lead. So it's not exactly a department that seems to want to accurately test, or it seems that their focus, the environmental department and the health department, is more economic development.
It's economic development. That's all they care about. They don't care that the people at the plants are getting poisoned.
So talk about, because you've talked to people who work here.
People that don't work here anymore. I've talked to tons of people that have cancer that have worked here. I've talked to people that, have, if you just Google graphic packaging obituaries, you can see, like, how many people die from cancer all over the United States from their plants. I mean, this is insane. Why do they not have carbon filtration? They're a billion-dollar corporation. Why are they expanding next to environmental justice communities? Why is the government allowing increases in pollution when there's already problems for years with pollution already killing people? Why? Because you're being paid off? Because what? Your campaigns are being donated to by these corporations? Like, what's your reasoning for allowing people to die?
And by the way, Kalamazoo, I forget the year, was the site of like the biggest oil spill in American history. So you already had the contamination from the oil spill.
It's a toxic wasteland. This whole entire city is. There's nothing. I mean, this is the city of Kalamazoo is probably the biggest Superfund site in the United States. I wouldn't doubt.
Well, you've tried the city. You've tried the governor. Michigan has Senator Stabenow, Senator Gary Peters. Nothing?
Called them all. I talked to Gary Peters' assistant, her name was Annie Brown, I think. She said that she would try to get Gary to talk to me. He never did. Sean McCann, Julie Rogers, every politician that there is, I've called. I've joined the NAACP in every group that there is. No one helped. I have filed a class action lawsuit. I have filed civil rights complaints. I've done every single thing. I've called into every single meeting explaining how bad it is. I've handed toxicology reports to the mayor of Kalamazoo. I've sent toxicology reports to the health department to initiate the first air pollution health study in Michigan. I had to pay for it myself because no one would help me. No one would help. They just nobody cared. That's why I think there's something about this company that's so powerful that people just don't want to make waves with them, or they're either paid off or they just don't give a fuck.
Can I ask you, we've talked about the asthma, we talked about COVID. Do you know anything about cancer rates in Kalamazoo?
Heart disease is high, cancer is high, lower respiratory disease is high, kidney disease is high. Everything that comes from this factory causes every high rate of disease that there is in this county. And I also don't think it's higher than it's reported, because like I said, when I found that report, and I think that someone else had reported on it, maybe on live, or I can't remember who else put it out there. It's not on the county health department's website anymore. You can't even find anything, or they've adjusted things to make it seem like it's lower. The rates are lower than they were. Everything is so corrupt. They just don't want people to know the truth, that they're being poisoned. And people deserve to know the truth. I had to study so much just to understand environmental racism and air pollution and how it affects everyone, because we're not taught this in school. And so they don't talk about it in the mainstream media. They don't let us know what's really going on. So I'm trying to bring awareness as much as possible so that everyone knows, not just here in Kalamazoo, but in Michigan and the United States. Make sure your environmental department in the state and the EPA is regulating your air properly. Make sure your monitors are working. Make sure that the companies are being enforced. If they're violating the law, make sure they're getting heavy fines to stop what they're doing. If they have gas leaks like graphic packaging still has, or the wastewater plant still has, make sure you're calling up there or going into public hearings and say, fix this malfunctioning equipment. It's poisoning us. How is that? This is something else I don't understand. They gave graphic packaging a permit when they started the expansion without one. You should have shut them down right then. They violated the law. They
expanded without a permit?
Without the permit. They already started it. They didn't care. They're like, oh, who cares? Because they've never had any real enforcement by Environmental Great Lakes and Energy, so they thought they could do whatever they want. They could start the expansion without the permit.
Let's just call it what it is. Are they going to have to start poisoning the wealthy white part of Kalamazoo for anyone to do anything? It seems like not that I want them to poison anyone, but it seems like the only way that the government will care is if the wealthy white people start complaining and start getting sick. And it seems like it's starting to go that way into the whiter part of town.
I don't think she would care at all.
Really?
No, I really don't think she'd care. And then going over that way, they might not even complain about it.
They're complaining.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're filing air complaints, but the white people in the predominantly white area is west. It's actually next to Kalamazoo College. This is another thing. We have Western Michigan University. We have Kalamazoo College. We have KVCC. These are colleges where people don't even know their kids are going to college here and getting poisoned. They have no idea because it's just the mainstream media. I've talked to them. I mean, there's only so many reporters that actually care enough to report the truth.
Let me ask you, most of these cities have like a local Fox or CBS or NBC.
They reported it, but not the full truth.
So what exactly are they reporting?
When I filed the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit almost 3 years ago, they reported on that. They reported my civil rights complaints. They reported, I think they did something on environmental racism with Kalamazoo and Benton Harbor, lead water, the lead in the water there. And then MLive has done the best job, I'd say. They're the local, it used to be called Kalamazoo Gazette. They've reported a lot, now Graphic Packaging is supposed to report their toxic gas monitoring and stuff like that, and they never were supposed to before, but that's part of the enforcement. I don't think that they would have even done any enforcement against Graphic Packaging if I had not filed a civil rights complaint with the EPA External Civil Rights Department. I don't think they would have.
And it's probably those reporters don't live anywhere near the plant, so out of sight, out of mind, it seems. Can you talk about for you? I know your husband has these issues. Did you say you have asthma now?
No, I don't have asthma. Okay. My husband does, and my granddaughter, she has asthma. And like I said, she used to come over quite a bit, but she doesn't come over as much because she uses her inhaler every time she comes over. She said, I don't have to use it until I come over here. Why? I said, I don't know. And then she comes over, complain about the smell. And then, like I said, my great-grandson, now he is having issues.
And I assume this is not good if you're a pregnant woman.
No.
Breathing this in.
That's another thing. There's a high miscarriage rate here. This is the worst state and national public health crisis that's going on right now that's being ignored. I think it's one of the worst. I think if you were to compare death rates, which I've asked the news to do, I've sent them everything. There isn't anything that any local, in any news station in Michigan, every single newspaper or news station has every single thing I have that I've sent to try to get them to report this, to bring awareness, to get help for everyone. And so it just makes me feel like this world is so cruel now, because I can't imagine if everyone knew about this back when people weren't so evil, they would have helped. I just can't believe people don't care.
And you look at it, just look at it now. Deanne got so sick with the breathing problems that she had to walk off.
I've used my inhaler just 5 times since I've been here. It gives me, I get panic attacks. I didn't want to come here, but I'm doing this because I want to help. I'll do whatever it takes to try to help save lives. But I was having anxiety. I had to take 2 anxiety pills just to drive here because I don't come here. I moved here as soon as I found out that the city of Kalamazoo did gas studies on Graphic Packaging and the wastewater plant in 2009 and never told us. As soon as I found those through FOIA requests and started this whole thing, I sold my house and moved. Not everyone can afford to move, so that's why I keep fighting for everybody, because they can't afford to relocate, they can't afford to move. I was lucky enough to be able to move.
Well, that's always the knee-jerk line from conservatives. Well, if it's so bad, why don't you move? You got all the money under your pillow to move?
Not at all. Can't afford to move.
This must be really, with all the other shit in the world, inflation, high costs of everything, mass shootings, police brutality. You just want to go home to your house, maybe be able to drink some tea or something else on the balcony. You can't even go outside, really.
Can't even go outside.
What does it say to you that in America we keep hearing all this stuff? We're the envy of the world, the wealthiest country on earth, democracy, that they're just allowing this. We went over there. I couldn't breathe. They're just allowing it because what? The city makes a little money off of the company? What does that say to you?
The state as well. They just don't care. They don't care. They're making money.
Greed. It's one of the
That's exactly, greed. And so they don't care.
I mean, I think we know the answer, but it seems that most of these places always seem to exist right next to a poor black or poor Hispanic, even a poor white,
or Native American.
or Native American. You don't tend to see this type of industry near the upper middle class, definitely not in wealthy areas.
No, I was surprised when they started the expansion. It's like, okay, now, I mean, like I said, it's in the predominantly black neighborhood, and so I really think they don't care. They don't care about people's health. They don't care about anything. Like it's all about money, 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 money.
That's all they care about.
That's all.
To viewers watching, we got viewers in Michigan, we got viewers in other states. Well, what can they do? I mean, other than just
Share this on your social media pages. Please, God, I'm begging you. Please share this. Share this, share this, share this. Ask your family members, ask your friends. Share this so that people are aware of how bad it is here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, because that's what we need, like, to share it, share on your social media pages, and call the governor of Michigan and complain with a constituent service. If right now, though, even if you call there, like, it's a voicemail. They used to answer. Like, it's just like, I don't even know if that will help. We've asked the House study to come out. If you were to call the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, I don't think it would even work. So what I think is bringing awareness so that people know, because 90% of the world is asleep to this type of stuff. 90%.
And can you tell the audience a little more? You've said that you filed lawsuits, etc. Tell us about the lawsuits. Where do those stand?
Lawsuits still pending. We're going to file some more lawsuits in a few weeks, and we have civil rights
lawsuits against graphic packaging, against the state of Michigan.
Yep, we're filing another lawsuit against graphic packaging. We're filing a lawsuit against the governor and Eagle and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for delaying the health study. Like, we're tired of waiting. We want help.
And where the fuck is the EPA?
The EPA is supposed to be helping too, but they really aren't doing anything. I mean, the EPA External Civil Rights Department has been in an informal resolution agreement with my civil rights complaint since September of 2021.
What does that mean in English, an informal resolution?
If Eagle promises to make changes so they don't violate the civil rights of environmental justice communities, African Americans, predominantly African American communities, because this is, mine's for this community, everybody would be different. There's a one for Flint and Detroit right now too. If they make changes, then EPA won't pull their funding because the states are funded by the EPA. I told them I think we need to have the funding pulled because that's how you're going to make them really make changes. I don't believe even if they agree to certain changes that they will, because they had a civil rights complaint for Flint and they didn't really make any changes.
Are you beginning to see a pattern, folks? Flint, East Palestine, I mean, they just fucking bombed a whole village with a whole cocktail of highly, highly, highly toxic, cancerous chemicals, toxics, and the EPA, our air testing, our water testing, our soil testing, it's fine. Don't worry if you have nosebleeds, if you're dizzy, nauseous, your eyes are burning, you have chemical burns, people have been experiencing sore throats, numb tongues, numb lips in East Palestine. Flint, we were just there 9 years. People are still getting rashes from the water. People are saying 9 years later the water smells like sewer. Here, you basically have a fucking corporate villain just pumping toxic gas into the community. Yet the EPA is basically either not responding or saying everything's fine.
They're just I mean, I see the new environmental justice.
You can see. I just saw it. It's getting darker. The smoke coming out.
I think it's like soot after a while, And Eagle tries to say it's steam. It's like, come on, you guys are literally like making money off of like the company for each chemical they release.
Well, I think if they want to promise you that it's fine, what they should do is every member of the environmental department, every member of the health department, every member of city council, every member of the mayor's office, governor's office, come out, have a picnic, mandatory 3 hours, starting at 5 o'clock, and let's see how long they last. Because Colin and I pulled into the parking lot. I couldn't breathe.
No, you can't. I've asked them. I said that they should come out here and like stay. The EPA came down here for 3 days a couple of years ago and brought their little mobile unit, and they found a bunch of methane. I guess more. They know the rest of the stuff. Graphic Packaging has been not being truthful when they put on the EPA toxic release inventory what they release. They were only putting they release lead and mercury. So that's another thing. And I don't even think they've gotten a violation for falsifying the TRI. But the Graphic Packaging is the number, like they're in the top 10 toxic water and air polluters in the world, and they always have been. They're located in environmental justice communities all over the United States. But for some reason,
meaning they're donating to a lot of politicians in a lot of places.
Absolutely. People need to look into the people who they vote for, look into the PACs, and look into, there's like this little thing called Little Sis. It's like Big Brother, and you can see like everybody that's connected and the corruption and the donations and where they're going. So make sure you really look into like who you're voting for, what politicians you're voting for, and who's donating to their campaigns, because that'll tell you a lot of what this is going, the corruption, the payoffs, you know, to just look the other way, to ignore a public health crisis like this is crazy.
And can I ask you, I'm not trying to get you to cry or anything, but could you talk about, you got to be worried for your grandkids, the other kids in the neighborhood. I mean, their bodies are not developed. Adults obviously are affected too, but kids, your respiratory system's not developed, your nervous system's not completely developed, cognitive function. I assume you're worried.
I'm very worried and very concerned about my grandson. Like I said, he's just a little 7-month-old baby. And he has a hard time. I mean, a really hard time just being just that young. And the other kids in the neighborhood, like I said, they don't be outside so that often to go to school. And then in the summertime, they don't be out as hot as it is. They don't even have air conditioning in the house, but yet they be in the house rather than be outside.
What kind of childhood? If you can't go outside for recess, if you can't go outside during the summer, you want to go outside to go in the pool.
You're sick at school. The disability rates at the schools are insane here. Like, how can you even learn if you're having asthma attacks? You're missing a lot of school from asthma, you know, or cancer or worse. I mean, their childhood cancer is here. It's not a low rate either. Like, I mean, these kids have, like, this is insane. Like, I don't want to, I've cried enough talking to you. I don't want to cry again, but I'm just saying, like, this is, it's just criminal killing.
You talk about also, I mean, there's a very thin line between physical and mental health. I gotta assume this causes frustration, but anxiety for people, depression for people. Can you talk about
and anxiety big time? Yes, even I have to take something for anxiety, and my daughter, she has really bad anxiety, like panic attacks. I mean, it's terrible.
So many emergency room visits. I probably had 50 emergency room visits for panic attacks. Just trying to fight for everybody. Panic attacks.
Did you have this level of anxiety before moving here?
Heck no. No. And I had to get put on high blood pressure medicine just for being an activist. Like, my whole health and life has completely changed. The time that I had to put in to even, like, research, and I couldn't even get, like, a lot of doctors to help me. I had to get out-of-state doctors. I finally got University of Michigan, like, a doctor there to, like, say to the news, like, the hydrogen sulfide rates in itself that are being monitored are 47 times the minimal health risk level. What are you guys doing to help? Where's the help?
Say that again. The hydrogen sulfide levels were 47
times. At the corner of Riverview and Gold Road, which is over there, they're 47 times the minimal risk level for health, and that's an unregulated gas, and that's the only one that they're monitoring. The only one.
mean, you can't really. I can't even think of like a. I can't even really think of like a movie
No.
where they would just like a Bond villain type would try and poison a whole community and just plop it right.
It reminds me of like, and I hate if this is sensitive to anyone, I feel bad to say this, but it reminds me of the Holocaust. It reminds me of when Hitler used to gas Jewish people in vans, but they're just gassing the whole community, like communities all over the United States, like it doesn't matter.
The thing is, I mean, especially with weather, that shit travels. So even if you're not living like right here, you might be able to smell it even more intense.
Pollution travels. The ozone, like they blame a lot. Oh, pollution's coming from Chicago. Oh, okay, well, there's pollution everywhere, but like you can't blame it on the other states when your own state is polluting just as bad.
And just tell people so they know what are the kind of products that graphic packaging is making, so that
Paper, but now plastic, because they have graphic packaging lids on cups at restaurants like Jimmy John's and what's Chick-fil-A. I don't know. I think there's I just wish like places like companies that say that they care about racial justice now, like Procter and Gamble and Coca-Cola and stuff like that, they're customers of graphic packaging. Like, stop doing business with them. They're killing people. Stop doing business with graphic packaging. Like, if you really care. And like, graphic packaging is Coors. That's who they are. Stop buying Coors beer. This is just a subsidiary of Coors. The CEO of Coors said in a 1984 article that I quote, African Americans should be lucky that they were brought over to the United States in chains.
And you're saying graphic packaging is the same
Yes.
company?
The board of directors are Coors family members of graphic packaging.
Besides the fact that Coors is disgusting and terrible beer. Yes.
Yes, it is Coors, but yeah, I'm just saying, like, stop buying products from people that are poisoning people and killing people. This is a crisis against humanity.
Can I ask you guys, obviously Flint, in the beginning, there was a lot of residents and activism. Right now, East Palestine has residents out protesting and things like that. Talk about the community here. Do people come together to protest, or everybody's kind of just not doing much because what can you do?
I mean, everybody's done everything they can for the past 3 years, and we've done everything we can. But I think a lot of people just gave up because we've been ignored so much. I'm just not giving up, and there's a lot of us that aren't going to give up. Like, we're just going to keep trying. And so, I mean, and then I feel like this happens. You can say this with any predominantly African American community. We've had a profiling study done with the city of Kalamazoo police where they were pulling people over just for being black. So people don't want to be targeted anymore or see their families go to prison, their family members go to prison because they're black, because that's another crisis that we have, where you have like 80% of black men and 20% are white in prison. So they're either killing them by sending them away, and then crime is related to pollution too. So Kalamazoo declared a public health crisis for crime, but pollution is related to crime because of the mental health effects that cause you to commit the crime.
I hate to be dramatic, and tell me if I'm wrong. This kind of feels like an open air prison, because you can't leave your house because it smells so much. Kids can't play outside. Kids can't go out to recess. Your grandkids come over, they're having bad asthma attacks, they don't want to come. Sure, technically you have the choice to leave, there's not bars, but this is not exactly Republicans love to talk about freedom. Democrats like to pretend they're the party of black people. Well, both of them seem to be it. I mean, we know the Republicans don't give a shit, but the governor is a Democrat. You got Democrat senators, and they not only... It's worse than doing nothing. They allowed this company to expand. So, in my view, is the governor not kind of complicit in this?
Oh, she is. She's in it.
What would be your message on the very, very small chance she sees this? What would be your message? Because from what I could tell, she's got aspirations for higher office, possibly the White House down the road. This will eventually come back I mean, people will know about this if she runs for president down the road. What would be your message to Governor Whitmer?
My message will be listen to the people and do something about it. Don't just ignore it.
And the Attorney General. I have a message for the Attorney General. I called your office. You are supposed to be a public servant for the people. And your office told me that you could not help us because you represent Environmental Great Lakes Energy. That is a conflict of interest. If you represent a state agency, probably because of my civil rights complaint, I'm assuming, that should not should not oversee the public health.
It is so ironic you said that, because earlier in the day I just did an interview where I was explaining the Attorney General in the case of Flint has a blinking red light conflict of interest, because they're supposed to be, the Attorney General's office is supposed to be prosecuting the Snyder administration that poisoned Flint, but on the other end they're defending the state of Michigan. And it sounds like here they told you, well, we can't do anything because we represent the state environmental department. Well, aren't you supposed to represent the people first and foremost?
We're the ones that vote for these public servants. So we're the public. We're the ones that they're supposed to represent. We're the ones that they're supposed to help. People are sick. People are dying. We are sick. People have died. This is insane. Get off your ass and do your fucking job.
And what, I'm assuming you pay like a couple $1,000 a year in taxes, property taxes, city taxes. I mean, you're basically paying what to be poisoned?
To be poisoned. You're paying to be poisoned. Can't even enjoy your own home, and that's what you buy a home for, so you can enjoy it and
Supposed to be your sanctuary.
And your peace, your sanctuary, but you can't even do it. I have new windows, and I can't even open them. And I couldn't wait to open my windows. I said, oh, fresh air. That didn't happen. And it probably won't happen. I've had to cancel. I was the one that would get the family together for reunions, but now they don't even want to have it at my house. So now we have to have it out of town. So I have to travel now. So I can't even have family gatherings anymore in the backyard. Nobody wants to come over. And then we have company sometimes. We're in the front, and they'll say, "What does that smell?" And they say, "Oh," and and they pretty much know what it is. I said, it's graphic packaging. I said they just pollute the air once again. And so, like I said, we can't have company. Well, our company don't come over as much, and then I don't have family gatherings at my house because nobody wants to come. And then I really hate the fact that my great grandson, that I just really adore him. He doesn't come over as much, and I would really like to see him, but now I have to go see him because every time he comes over, he's sick. He gets sick.
And that's the same story with everyone. She had, so many people are saying the same thing. I've talked to so many people. Their kids can't come visit. Their grandkids, they're afraid for their grandkids. They make their dog. Like I talked to this lady where her animals died of cancer, so she's worried if her grandkids come visit, they might get cancer. I mean, it's just horrible. The stories I hear are horrifying.
About Deanne, who was here, you're talking about 17-year-olds dying of extreme asthma attacks, infants dying. I mean, that's genocide. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And honestly, I think what's important is a lot of times people will say, well, the EPA says it's meeting so-and-so levels. Is that? Well, I could tell you, because I just was over there, you cannot breathe. You cannot breathe, 2 minutes down the road. If you are right where that is coming out, it is overpowering. And if you are here long enough...
Why do I have to use this 4 or 5 times since I've been seeing it here?
So I don't care what the EPA is saying. I don't care what anybody's saying. They apparently don't even have air monitors down there. All you got to do is trust your nose, your sinuses, your chest. If you're there, I don't even know how people work here and make it through.
No, I don't.
Well, you're saying that a lot of them are dying of cancers.
Yeah, they have. A lot of people that don't work here anymore. I don't know about a lot of the people that people have quit here all the time. They have a very high turnover rate here. They offer bonuses too to people in the neighborhood, but you got to work here 90 days. They know most people aren't going to make it 90 days, so it's just another ploy to just get people to come work here. And I think there's like 500 people that work here or something, but there's thousands of people that live here. So there's 77,000 people that live in the city of Kalamazoo. So you're putting 500 employees' lives, or employees that you could relocate to other, you know, you can have relocation or something like that. The government could like relocate the employees' jobs to somewhere where they're not getting poisoned, and then everybody over here isn't getting poisoned to live here. It's common sense. And then if President Biden cares, like he just signed that new executive order for environmental justice, then do it now. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for with all these executive orders, these environmental justice laws that are being put in place? What's the holdup? Like, this is serious. Someone could die today. Get down here now. Help people now. Go to Flint now. Go to Detroit now. Come to Kalamazoo now. Go to Benton Harbor now. Help people now.
You know what's kind of, it's almost like they're trying to insult you. When I drive to Michigan, this time I flew, but every time I drive to Michigan, first thing I see when welcome Michigan is pure Michigan.
Pure toxic Michigan. More like it.
What do you, I mean, they brand themselves as pure Michigan because of the Great Lakes, but all I'm seeing is poisoned water, poisoned air. It's crazy.
They say that to get the tourists come here, so they just, you know, want to make this a tourist city pretty much. And so they have to pure Michigan, so they want them to think that. And you know, my sinuses, about the sinuses now, I haven't had sinus in a long time, but this year, in the past couple months, it's been so bad until I had nosebleeds, and I have never had them before. And it's like, oh my goodness, I said my nose hadn't bled, and I can't even think of how many years ago it's been, but that's how bad it's been lately.
People have asthma attacks and drive-thrus at the restaurants over here, working.
And you were saying that a lot of people have nosebleeds, and more so since they expanded.
Yep, a lot of, and that's why I fought so hard once I found out that they were going to expand, because I just knew it was going to be worse. And we fought so hard to stop the expansion, but the government didn't care. They just didn't care. They cared more about the corporation than they did about human life.
And, when you were having nosebleeds, you said that hasn't happened, but it's been happening recently since they expanded.
Yes, it's happened recently, and I just didn't understand it. So I said maybe I didn't know what it was, to tell the truth. And so I know my sinuses were really messing up. I have headaches, nauseous, and my headaches have been coming more frequently. And I thought, you know, I don't know what it is, but I know what it is, but they've been coming more and more frequently now. And with that came nosebleeds, and my sinuses are very bad lately. And I've always had sinus problems, but not like this.
And it must be like the anxiety also, because you don't even know what you're inhaling. Exactly. Who knows? Like, we think we know the gas is coming out of there, but you don't know all of it.
Right. And, you know, I used to work for a paper mill. They closed down now. And I know 2 people already that have died from cancer from ingesting those chemicals over there at that paper mill. So it's bad. And I worked in the paper mill, so I pretty.
I said you get anxiety from knowing what the chemicals and gases are too. Just knowing the exposure, like University of Michigan is going to do some blood testing for a 5-year blood testing over here. And they asked me to be included. And I still haven't decided, because I'm scared to even know, because they're going to tell you, like, because you were exposed to this environmental toxin, you're going to get this. You're going to get this. Well, I'm already sick enough. I'm already stressed out enough. I'm already worried about my son. God forbid, like, if anything were to happen to him, like, he got headaches and stuff, but bad migraines when we lived over here. But luckily, besides that, he wasn't as sick as me.
You said that since you've moved away, it's not as bad, but you're still sick.
Like, I have my up and down days. Like, my doctor told me that my lungs only improved 5% once I moved out into the country with fresh air with no pollution around me. But she said that if I would have stayed here, that I would have probably developed like COPD or emphysema because I just kept getting worse every single year that I lived here. So she said that it's good that I left, because I'm not going to probably get worse, but I won't ever get better. So that was like hard. Like, I cried for like an hour over that, because I thought I would just get better and better, but I'm not.
Yeah, well, I'm happy I'm here, and we're going to talk to more folks tomorrow. Like they said, it's now shifting further and further into the west part of Kalamazoo, which is by the colleges. So, yeah, we're going to talk to people. We're going to also try to show visuals where we could show you from people's houses so you could see the smoke. Before we end, let's just walk. You guys can stay here, but I just want to show. My wife's going to be mad at me, but that's okay. I just want to show the audience a little closer. We're not going to go that close because, honestly, it just smells. I can carry that. But yeah, like literally just walking this couple hundred yards, it stinks. You could turn around so you can show. Yeah, so we're not going to go much further because it fucking reeks. But if you see that, the smell is really bad. I can't even describe it. It's just a mix of like rotten something, and it almost like the closer you get, it's a rotten smell, and it kind of goes up your nostrils a little bit. And this is at whatever time it is now, probably 6 o'clock. So as the night goes on, it gets worse and worse. We've seen video of people hacking up their lungs at like 2 a.m, and you see it coming out of there, and it almost looks like an inferno. So they're probably releasing more of the toxic gas in the middle of the night. So I meant it when we called this a toxic tour. It's definitely not safe to inhale. Hang with me for a minute. Yeah, the closer you get, the worse it gets. So yeah, we're definitely gonna stay on this. We'll be here again, interviewing more people tomorrow. Please, please, please. Sorry if I missed any super chats. Thank you if you left super chats. Please, this is important. As they've said,
Begging you, please.
there is not a lot of media covering this.
Share on your social media.
Yes, so share this. We will definitely cut up smaller parts so that we could share it on Twitter, etc. But please, please, please share this stream. Please support us. This is not cheap to do Flint and then Kalamazoo and then East Palestine. So we had a couple, let me give a shout out. We had a couple members sign up before we went live. So I want to give shout outs to the new members. We also had some donations, which we would love some more to help us fund this reporting trip. So thank you to new member Todd, Riley, Doreen. So 3 new members, but we need more. So listen, there's a lot of things you spend $5 to $10 on a month that you probably don't need. If you shift that to Status Coup and support us, we're not just talking the talk, we walk the walk.
They're telling the truth. CNN and Fox News don't.
That's right. Nor MSNBC. So please, please sign up. StatusCoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. If you're already a member and could chip in a few bucks to support this trip, that's StatusCoup.com/donate. We will give a shout out tomorrow to folks that donate tonight. Any amount, we appreciate big amounts and small amounts. And most importantly, support us so we can support the people. I think it's really important. You know, you could interview people from afar, but you really just don't know a story until you come and see it and smell it. I could theoretically know it was bad, but now I feel it's bad because I just smelled how bad it is. So please, please, we're going to, again, do more interviews tomorrow. Make sure you're on our Substack so you get emails when we're going live. And thank you so much.